Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal. Season 1 content is going to be launching about next week for the War Within expansion, starting with a heroic week followed by a mythic week. And in preparation for the Season 1 content, a lot of players have begun to at least prepare to be able to gear their characters effectively as soon as the new seasonal content is finally upon us. And one of the best ways to prep ahead of time is to farm up as many upgrade currencies as possible, both whether we're talking about the crests that are available as of this new season, as well as Valorstones, which seems to be the biggest hurdle for many players as it is the one currency that we run out of the quickest. So for today's video, I want to take a look at all different ways that players have been able to farm up and store up Valor ahead of the brand new season so that you can be there and ready to upgrade all of your best in slot items immediately as soon as seasonal content finally launches. As always, if you want to see more guides like these for the War Within expansion, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. Otherwise, let's dive right into how you can farm up Valor ahead of Season 1. So farming Valor right now, or at least obtaining Valor, is a little bit difficult before actual seasonal content. Once we get into dungeons and raiding, we're going to be flooded with that resource easily. But early on, I did end up spending quite a bit of time today specifically, about an hour with a variety of different activities to see just how much Valor you're able to farm up with a variety of different content. So to start things off, if you want the most passive amount of Valor earned, where you're not necessarily looking to earn Valor, but want to be able to accumulate it while focusing on other tasks, a lot of the open world content offers quite a bit of Valor for very little investment. First of all, most world quests that you could do within, I don't know, maybe a minute at most, you'll get about, I would say, between 8 to 13 Valor per world quest, but also world quests offer up special assignments which are available for each and every one of the zones. Those can award you with a little bit of Valor as well. But we could go further and expand this to other open world content, such as, let's say, the Theater Troop event in the Isle of Dorn, which also doesn't take long at all. It's just a couple of minutes of an activity that also awards you Valor for completing and filling the bar. In fact, if you just want to participate in it, fill up the bar, and if you've already got the weekly reward, you could just bail as soon as you got all the rewards. And that can earn you quite a bit of Valor for very little time investment. But also, rumors in Ashkahet, once you unlock and are able to side with one of the leaders of the Severed Threads faction, we will find that there's going to be rumors all throughout Ashkahet, specifically in the City of Threads. And those rumors are basically bite-sized activities, kind of like a world quest, but not exactly. They're a lot more simple, like sometimes you'll just slay a specific enemy, or interact with 6 items, or maybe slay 4 easy to kill enemies, and they're very bite-sized, really quick to do, and all of them award you roughly about 5 Valor for about 2 seconds worth of work. As well as an additional bonus, you also get quite a bit of cash, a unique currency that's only available in the City of Threads and is traded by the Nerubian faction. They don't take gold, they only take this unique currency of cash. So if you're a little bit behind on cash, it's not quite an efficient cash farm, but it's a nice bit of cash that then you could spend with some of the different vendors for professions or other items. So just by interacting with open world content while you're focusing on bigger goals, such as, let's say, the special assignment, or maybe if you haven't done your Ashkahet weekly specifically, focusing on those activities can grant you quite a bit of Valor without necessarily focusing on the Valor gains. Now, the next thing I wanted to try right after is some of the instance content, specifically what is available right now between dungeons and delves. Dungeons are a very obviously easy one to recommend because right now is a pretty good time to continue to gear out your characters, get whatever gear you can. You can't get the best gear at the moment right now, but you can definitely do quite a lot. You're not quite in that mythic level, but you can get gear that is mythic adjacent if you fully upgrade all of your heroic items. And dungeons is an easy one since, I mean, the queues right now are fairly quick. Even as a DPS class, there's so many people playing in dungeons, queuing for dungeons right now. You'll be able to find groups either in LFG to queue for specific dungeons that are spam queuing them in order to get very specific items, or in just randoms, you'll be able to find groups pretty easily. Dungeons also don't take long at all, about 8 minutes or so without any waiting time involved. So the actual time spent in the dungeon is very little. What I noticed is per dungeon, whenever you're killing everything by the final boss, you get about 10 Valor per side boss, and then 30 Valor for the final boss, with most dungeons being a 4 boss instance. That's about 60 Valor in total, or rather Valorstones. I might call them Valor here and there, but it just makes it a little easier. But you're looking at about maybe 7 runs with 60 Valor in a single hour. So you're looking at about 400 plus Valor stones by the end of all of those runs, which is quite a bit, and in a couple of hours you'll be able to cap out on your Valor quite easily, while also being able to acquire a bunch of gear on all of your characters. Now, I thought that dungeons were a fantastic way of getting Valor, or Valorstones rather, so I thought that delves would obviously be another fantastic opportunity, since instead of having to wait for an entire group to do a dungeon, you could just run delves solo. But after you actually do the delve, for the amount of time spent, it doesn't reward a lot of Valor. It's like about 14 Valor for a tier 3 delve. Now, I decided to try to see if maybe that changes if I open up one of the big chests, the bountiful chest that requires the key in those very specific bountiful delves, and technically you can get more Valor that way, but it's definitely not worth recommending anybody using your keys until Season 1 content of delves is finally here, which is going to be in like in a week. Because technically, if you do use your keys in a bountiful delve, you get this item that allows you to participate in a world soul memory. These are open world events that any player can join in. You don't necessarily have to have a group for it, but you'll join into like a phase in a specific zone. Those rotate every single week. And there you'll be able to fight a bunch of creatures and elites and rares, and those will let you earn key coffer shard or fragments to create more keys for delves, but also Valor. And technically you can earn a bit of Valor for very little time spent, but it's definitely not worth committing an entire key for a delve to be able to get like 50 Valor for a couple of minutes worth of work. It is definitely not worth it. And hopefully, as the season goes on, as we get into higher tiers of delves, hopefully they will award a little bit more Valor, because as of this moment, current tier 3 delves are really not worth it. However, if you're looking for the best activity when it comes to Valorstone farming, and if you're really trying to get grimy and grindy for this currency, then technically it's called snuffling, but we'll refer to it as wax farming, is the best activity available right now before Season 1 content. In every single one of the zones, you'll have a variety of open world activities, from Theater Troop over in the Isle of Dorn to the Severed Threads, and activities that you can do with different heads of Severed Threads. You have the Spreading the Light in Hollowfall, and in Gundergrass you have two activities. One is Awakening the Machine, which is fairly solid, definitely worth doing, kind of worth you quite a bit of Valor. The other one, however, is actually gonna be an activity with the kobolds in the local area. The activity itself is called Snuffling, but it's really just you digging for treasures within disturbed earth that are kind of like dig sites from the Dragon Isles expansion that can be found in every single one of the zones of the War Within Kaz Algar. Some of those disturbed earth will be simple treasures that you'll just have to dig up and loot. Others will be like some kind of like an ambush or an attack where you got to kill a bunch of enemies, or maybe a single enemy and you loot them for that wax. And others will be a variety of different activities from that's going to be a little bit different than your simple kill stuff, loot stuff type of events. Like maybe you're trying to protect a bag full of treasure away from kobolds, and it's a little bit of crowd control and micromanagement. Maybe you'll just find a green slime that you can just bounce on top of over and over and over up until you collect a bunch of wax. All of these activities, no matter what you interact with, will award you a various amount of odd globs of wax. And these globs of wax can be traded at the vendor in Gundergrass, where the kobolds are, where all of the wax figurines are going to be found, towards kind of the back area next to like the spa where the earthen relax and rest before they head out back for more expeditions. Now this wax can be traded in for a variety of currencies. The primary currency, however, is going to be Valor. You'll be able to trade 5 wax for 10 Valor, which doesn't sound like a lot, or at least it doesn't sound like a lot unless you can just farm an ungodly amounts of wax, and in fact that you can. On top of it, when you are trading the wax to the vendor for 10 Valor, whenever you trade 50 wax, you're able to also be awarded with a Firelight Ruby, an item which can be traded in at the Snuffling and Ruby vendor for a variety of goodies, from bags containing profession items to potentially toys, and even pets if you're somebody who likes to go for collectibles. In fact, a lot of players were able to use this wax trading system for rubies in order to buy a variety of profession items, because it came in huge bulks, and put them up in the auction house to make a ton of gold. But apparently they nerfed a lot of that grinding that players were able to do with gold. So sorry to say this, but you missed out on the opportunity to gain a ton of gold early into the expansion. But the actual wax and Valor trade-in is still fairly worth it. And I tried to see how much wax you could farm out in an hour, and what I heard is that the place in Hollowfall all around the Spreading the Light event, where the crystals are lighting the path for the Arathi, and that area is just absolutely loaded with disturbed earth that you can use in order to get even more wax. And it spawns so regularly that you can just run circles around the place constantly and just keep looting more and more and more wax with every single one of these treasures. In fact, there's a lot of other players in this area also that are constantly looting for the wax there as well, and you can collect a ton of wax in a single hour. I didn't really do any crazy sweaty grinding. I kind of did it more casually for about an hour, and I came back to try to see how much wax I was able to convert into Valor, and I found out that this method is actually the best when it comes to Valor farming. I was able to get maybe about close to 500 Valorstones an hour average by doing this activity. Some players have apparently been able to get this as high as 700, so it's even better than what I've been able to do. But then again, I did it more casually, just trying to figure out just how much wax are you going to be able to get compared to all of the other activities. On top of it, while you're doing the snuffling, there's quite a bit of a bonus of the items that you're going to be able to get while doing this activity. Not only are you going to be able to get Valor from turning in the wax, but you also earn Valor for every single one of the treasures that you get to loot. But also you got a variety of different items from those as well. Primarily professional items that you can either then use for professions yourself, like enchanting or leatherworking or blacksmithing. It seems to be like a random assortment of items that you can loot from this activity. Or if you don't really care about professions, drop them onto the auction house, make a bunch of gold. Do this as early on as you can throughout the expansion and make the gold early, so then you'll have some gold to buy all those enchants and consumables once the seasonal content is finally here. But this event in particular is also great for Valor because you can actually store up additional Valor even after we reach maximum cap, and that is what makes the whole snuffling and wax farming the best type of activity if you're trying to get the most amount of Valorstones and stock up on additional Valorstones. Now, when you reach maximum Valor, you are capped at 2,000. You can't earn any more. This is the same goes for dungeons, open world content, and even this whole snuffling activity. Once you reach 2,000 Valor, that's it. You can't earn more. Except technically with snuffling and the wax stuff, you can, not directly, but indirectly keep stocking up on more Valorstones because you can just continuously keep farming wax. You can just farm up as much wax as you wanted. So let's say like you have a full cap of Valorstones and like, let's say, I don't know, 1,000 wax left over. Season 1 starts, you get a bit of gear, you upgrade those items, you spend all those Valorstones, then you can take that stored up wax and go back to the snuffling vendor and then convert all the wax back into Valorstones. So the more wax you have, the more reserve Valorstones you can have for season 1. And that is probably what makes this activity the best option right now if you're just looking for grimy farming. And I really mean grimy. Doing this at least for an hour, just going circuits again and again and again with wax, I was actually getting pretty tired of it. And that's the worst part about this whole Valor thing. I think Valor is probably best served whenever you're doing dungeons or raiding or PvP or any other activity, any endgame activity, and you're able to Valor passively while having to focus on items and gear and all these other seasonal things. But grinding out Valor so just through it specifically was a bit of a grind, and I'm somebody who's done a few mount grinds so far during the very first few weeks of this expansion already, but this one I felt very grimy doing it, but it is effective either way though. So if you're someone who is just focusing on getting as much Valorstones ahead of the season 1 content, let's say you got all the gear you want and you just want to make sure you're prepped for the season 1 and you want something to do, right now grinding out for all that wax is the best and the fastest way for you to be able to stock up on a bunch of Valorstones. It is 1, very efficient, 2, has a bunch of bonuses involved behind it, and 3, allows you to stock up and prepare before the season 1 content arrives. However, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, all of the Valorstone farming woes are going to be a little bit easier once seasonal content begins. Trust me, once we're grinding mythic plots as well as individual bosses within a new raid tier, you'll be able to earn a lot more Valor consistently while focusing on other objectives such as gearing out your character. But with that being said, I do want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope all of you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy it or potentially found it informative, go ahead and give it a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community, a link to that in the description of every single video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in another video.